Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Let's have some fun. John and Jenny were both a lot like each other. They were about the same age, height, and had similar personalities. You could even say they were the perfect couple, except for one thing. They didn't know each other. Both were extremely shy and single, or at least that was how the world perceived them. Even though they had never met before, things were about to change because other people had plans for them to meet. Now it was late summer, and Mark and Susie's wedding was coming up. Mark knew John, and Susie knew Jenny, so the two of them came up with a plan to bring John and Jenny together. Mark and Susie thought they were perfect for each other, and they thought that if they could just meet, things would work out on their own. So for the meal at the wedding reception, John and Jenny were put at tables next to each other. John did sit next to Jenny at the wedding reception, and besides the usual pleasantries, there were long periods of painful silence. John did want to talk to Jenny, and Jenny did want to talk to John, but they were both too shy. In reality, they both found the other attractive, but they didn't talk much. After the meal was over and the dancing began, John and Jenny, who were now married, made sure to stay together. It took a lot of convincing, but John and Jenny finally danced together. At this point, they really started to talk to each other better and find out they had a lot in common. They danced more that night and started to feel more comfortable with each other. Maybe it was the drinks, but Mark and Susie's plan seemed to be working. As the night came to an end, it made sense for John to walk Jenny home. They didn't talk much in the taxi until they got to Jenny's apartment. John was about to go back home when Jenny asked him, "Would you like to come in for coffee?" John thought for a moment and then said, "I'd better not." "Time is running out," Jenny said. "But I was going to give you that book we talked about before." "If you're sure it's fine," he said. John followed Jenny into the house. His shyness was coming back because all the other people who made him feel safe were gone. Jenny led him to the living room and told him to take a seat while she made coffee. The rest of the time, John didn't say much, and once again, his shyness ruled everything he did. Jenny was the one who did most of the moving. She started the small talk they had, and she was the one who suggested they get together again. John agreed to this because he thought he had found a woman to be with, but he didn't know how to be in a relationship. John left Jenny's apartment about half an hour after he first went there. He walked the 2 miles back to his own place. Almost as soon as John walked into his apartment, the phone started to ring. It was Jenny. She thought it would speed things up if she invited John to her apartment the next day. John was flattered and happy, and he said yes with a stutter. John showed up at Jenny's apartment at the time they had agreed on. He rang the doorbell, and Jenny answered, "Come in," as she opened the door. John noticed right away that Jenny looked so different from when they had first met at the wedding. Jenny's hair used to be a cute bob, but now it was short and almost boyish. She wore black pants and a simple white shirt. John also noticed that Jenny didn't seem as voluptuous as he remembered her being. In fact, she looked like she had no chest at all. John asked nervously, "I'm not late, am I?" He was beginning to feel shy again. He was beginning to doubt himself once more. When Jenny gave him a long kiss, everything changed right away. She was the one who was the most sure of herself out of the two. John thought this was amazing because he had never been with a woman in a real way before. This made me feel a lot of different things. Jenny suggested that they go for a walk in a nearby park, and since John didn't have any other ideas, they did just that. Jenny reached out and put her hand in John's. When she did this, it surprised him at first, but when he realized what she had done, it made him feel so proud. As the walk went on, there was more and more physical contact. By the end of the walk, they were holding hands, which John loved. So it seemed like John had finally found a girlfriend after all these years, and he was happy about it. But he did have a lot of doubts about what to do next. What was this next step going to be? Should he give her a kiss? What if she told him no? Is there a chance that this could go on? If that's the case, what should he do? Even though John thought Jenny was as shy as he was, It was actually she who was making all the moves. Jenny reached out and took John's hand. Jenny was the one who hooked her arm around John's. Jenny was about to be the one to give them their first kiss in public. So, right there in the park, she turned around to face John, wrapped her arms around his neck, and kissed him on the mouth. John was shocked, to say the least, but he didn't do anything to stop her. John didn't say anything because he was too shocked to say anything. He was surprised by Jenny's courage. John's face turned very red, which was the only other reaction Jenny could see. Jenny asked John, "Are you all right?" John finally got himself together enough to mumble, "Yes, I'm fine." Jenny, who was starting to worry, asked, "I haven't upset you, have I?" John yelled, "No!" "Are you sure?" "Quite sure." John was happy after this happened, but Jenny was still a little worried about what she had done. All of this was just how this relationship was moving forward, which was painfully slow but making some progress. Once John got over his shock in the park, they kissed again when they got back to Jenny's apartment. In the weeks that followed, their relationship got stronger, and they started seeing each other almost every day. But John always left Jenny's apartment at a reasonable time in the evening. The idea that he might stay all night never crossed his mind. Jenny, on the other hand, did want John to spend the night. She thought that, just like with their first kiss, she would have to take the lead when she thought the time was right. Jenny and John's relationship had been moving forward steadily, if slowly, for a few weeks, so Jenny thought it was time to take it to the next level. If John was not going to do anything, she would. Jenny knew that John would be coming over to her apartment that night, but instead of the usual dinner, drink, walk, and goodnight kiss, something else had to happen. So Jenny decided to dress appropriately to see if that would speed things up. She bought a new dress for the wedding, but she didn't want to wear it. Jenny didn't have a lot of appropriate clothes because she tended to dress very simply, even on the inside, but this was an emergency. So she went to the high street at lunchtime to get a few things for that night. She bought a lace top, a white satin blouse, a short black skirt, a new pair of high-heeled shoes, and a lot of makeup. So she was late to work, and the other girls there made some comments about what she had bought and what she was up to. Jenny said nothing. After work was done for the week, Jenny started getting ready for the evening. She took off her clothes and got into a hot, soapy bath. Jenny got out of the bath, dried off, and started to put on what she hoped would be her outfit. Her top went on first, then her new skirt and blouse, a watch, rings, a bracelet, and a pair of clip-on earrings completed the look, then the makeup, and finally the red nail polish. Jenny usually didn't put on much makeup or nail polish, but she thought she would put on a bit more than usual, almost like a tart, for this event. Jenny put on her new shoes and looked in the long mirror in her bedroom to see how they looked. She told herself that if this didn't get John going, nothing else would. So all that was left to do was wait for John to show up and go from there. John arrived at Jenny's apartment right on time. If Jenny had anything bad to say about John, it wasn't that he was always late. If he said he'd be somewhere at a certain time, he would definitely be there at that time. John was a little surprised when Jenny came to the door in her new clothes. John saw a beautiful person he had first met at the wedding, the one he had fallen in love with. Over the past few weeks, he had gotten used to Jenny wearing pants and shirts and looking like a boy. Seeing her look like a woman again made something inside of him start to move. When he saw her at the door, he told her, "You look good." Jenny said, "Thank you, sir, and please come in." So in he went. Jenny had already done other things to get ready for this night. She made a delicious meal for them, and they would eat it by the light of candles. There was wine. The clothes and the way the room looked and felt did the trick. Jenny still had to take the first step in everything, but she tried to plan it so that John would think he was in charge. After the meal, they both sat down on the couch in the living room where Jenny asked, "So, how was the meal?" John said, "It was great. Thanks so much." Jenny continued, "Well, thank me properly." John thought that she wanted to kiss him, so he did exactly that. Jenny, on the other hand, made sure that when they kissed, she would do it with a lot of passion. Jenny had her arms around John's neck and was holding him very tightly. Even if John had tried to stop her, he couldn't. This went on for a while. As they nervously started taking each other's clothes off, Jenny couldn't help but notice how gently and lovingly John held each of her clothes. John didn't leave her clothes on the floor. Instead, he picked it up and let it touch his body. He also made sure to hold it close to his body. Jenny was suspicious because of the way John held Jenny's clothes. She asked, "John, what is it?" Jenny kept asking because she could see that John was trying to hide something. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure." What Jenny said next really threw John for a loop. "Do you want to wear it?" At that moment, you could have beaten John. It seemed to come out of nowhere. Jenny saw that John's face turned bright red and said, "I think you would, wouldn't you?" "I think I should go," John said. "No, I'm sorry. Please don't go." "Well, I don't think you'd want me to stay." "Look, I really want you to stay because I think we have a lot more in common than you might think." "I don't get it." "I think you will." At this point, Jenny suggested that they both get dressed, which they did. When they got back to the living room, Jenny poured them both big drinks, and they sat down together on the couch. "Would you like to talk about it?" Jenny asked. "What do we talk about? You know what it's like to be with me, right?" "I don't know." "Well, is it new?" "Is it different?" "Yes," she said. "Is it me?" "Yes." "Is that it?" "I don't know." "Could it be because of what I'm wearing?" "Maybe." These questions were starting to make John feel silly, and he wasn't sure why. Jenny could see that John was embarrassed, and when she realized she knew the answer, she said, "Is it because you want to wear my clothes?" John's face got even redder. Jenny asked him again, and he answered in a small voice, Yes, I think so." Thanks for watching. Check out Patreon for early access to the other parts. Have a wonderful day.